All right, guys, let's take a look at the Seiko sbdc127. There is a JDM variant out there. I think it's called the SPB187, but this is not that model. This is the sbdc127. What is the difference? I don't know. I'm asking you. What is the difference? I don't think there really is much of a difference. But anyway, big thanks to my buddy Jeff McMahon for sending this over. This is his watch. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel down in the description. And what we're looking at here is essentially around $1,000 Seiko diver. And more importantly, this isn't like it is a new model, but it isn't. It's kind of like a refresh of a previous release. I don't know if they're carrying both models anymore. I really haven't kept up with the Seiko stuff a ton, other than I do know it looks extremely familiar in the sense that it looks familiar to the Marine Master 300. And more importantly, on the affordable side of things, the Marine Master 200 that we were all calling that model, like the, what were they called, like sbdc123 or something. I can't remember what their part number was. But the first generation mm200 that we were calling them, or the baby Marine Masters that were released in like, what, 2019 or something like that, 2018. But those were wider. So that's where the big difference is. They were like 43.75 thick, and they didn't have this brushed separation between the belly. So I think it's a totally different case, but it kind of looks like they just shaved off that point that used to be on the first release and gave it a brushed release, which would have then shrunk the case down to this actual 42 millimeter case. So I'm sure that's not actually what happened, but that's what it kind of looks like. I like the separation. This watch seems a little more visual appealing, and a totally different handset. So a 42 millimeter watch, 49-ish lug to lug, a nice curve to the case, and drilled lugs. 13 millimeter thick. I think they claim it's like 12.5. I measured like 13. Sapphire crystal flat with AR coating on the underside. 20 millimeter lug width here. Bracelet tapers down to 18. Pretty standard clasp system for a modern Seiko. It has the milled center, the stamped outer for micro adjust, and now it has this oversized keeper versus the old one, which was a little bit shorter. This one just kind of fills it out and smooths it out a little bit better, gives it a better transition. It has that diver extension tucked away in there. I think a lot of people could take it or leave it with that, but it pretty much is there and nobody ever uses it. Occasionally I will open up one and just play around with it, but it's definitely more fun to play around with that part of the Seiko clasp. I love that. I know it's not like Tudor ball bearing ceramic and all that good stuff, but it's still a nice, familiar, audible tone from a watch that a lot of us really like. 120 click bezel. This one is on the stiffer side, but it feels good and consistent all the way through. Has that familiar, gasket drag and two-stage click that Seiko has, and it lines up pretty good. I think that's all you can really ask from Seiko anymore. If you can say it lines up pretty good, then you know it's actually good. Because if it lined up perfect, I think there's an ongoing joke that if it actually lined up perfect, then it's not a real Seiko. So this one, the triangle for the pip is just slightly to the right from what I can tell. But if you look, these newer models, they're going with like basically a Riot, and they're doing the printing on the dial. So that is one way to kind of make it a little easier on their quality control department. And then the handset on this is much more like you would see the handset on the Willard. So it has a peak to the handset, it's beveled, and on one side of it, it is brushed, and on the other side of it, it is polished. So it plays with the light and makes it super visible in pretty much all light conditions, bright or in the dark. Obviously, you're going to have the lume, but in the transition, it still is going to reflect really nicely. And then you have that very cool second hand that is being more and more used on a lot of Seiko models. Date at the 6 o'clock. This is if you look down there towards the bottom, this is a 6R35 movement. So this is their newer refreshed 6R movement with longer power reserve and better anti-magnetism, all that good stuff. So here's a look at the case back if you're interested in seeing pretty much standard stuff there. Nothing crazy. Solid end links, obviously, screw down crown. I'm I'm assuming that's a ceramic bezel insert. I really couldn't find the information. In past models, they were using like a coated metal, but this one just really looks like ceramic. So if it's not ceramic, they're making it look like ceramic pretty good. So if you guys have any questions on this one, let me know. Let me give you a wrist shot. I'm going to hold it next to those models so you can get a good size orientation there. And of course, we'll do a lume shot. Being that this one's a little bit smaller, it still wears great. It still works fine on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. I like it, certainly when it's going to be a Seiko, because they always feel and wear a little bit smaller than their actual dimensions. This one being like 42 by 49, this is gonna go down to like 6.5 or sub 6.5 inch wrist. I swear, guys, you'd be shocked how well this would work on your wrist. For me, I would lean more towards a little bit larger Seiko. Not that this one works, 100% works. Certainly works on bracelet. Their bracelets are really nice. It's going to be like a pin and collar bracelet too. But here it is next to the Seiko SKX. Alarmingly similar in size. Like it is like very close to the same size, just a different case profile, but very similar. So yeah, the SKXs are kind of going away. I know there's a bunch of other companies that make similar models and everything like that, but and so are gone are the days of, you know, the killer deals on Seikos like we used to get, sub 200 for those divers. You know, on the used market for these, you're going to be in the $800 range. New, they're I think like 1100 or something like that. So I'm not really sure where Jeff picked this one up, but and here it is next to the Willard. These are probably two of the more sought after watches from Seiko for a lot of guys that are getting into Seiko divers now, or the OGs. You know, we've been doing it for years. We've been here for a long time. A lot of us absolutely love the Willard, and I'm sure you would love a model like this as well, or you're going to, you know, work your way up to the MM300 or, you know, Marine Master or whatever you want to call it. Let's kill the lights, check the Lume. There you go. You're guaranteed good Lume when you buy a Seiko diver, guys. I have yet to see a Seiko diver going back even decades that is going to disappoint. Like they're all going to be good. So it's a known quantity with the brand. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next vid.